Good evening and welcome back to Science for Sleep. Tonight we are going to explore something that surrounds you every moment of your life. Something you cannot see. Something you cannot feel directly. Something that has quietly protected this planet for billions of years. Earth's magnetic field. Right now, as you listen to this, an invisible magnetic force is stretching from the deep interior of the planet far out into space. It surrounds the Earth like a vast, silent shield. It bends streams of solar radiation away from our atmosphere. It guides animals across oceans and continents. And it creates one of the most stable environments in the known universe for life to exist. But here is the question that has begun to fascinate scientists in recent years. Could this invisible magnetic environment also interact with the human brain? Could the magnetic field of our planet subtly influence how your mind processes memories, emotions, and experiences? And if it could, would you ever notice? Tonight we are going to explore the real science behind these ideas. We will talk about physics, biology, neuroscience, and some of the stranger theories scientists have proposed while trying to understand the relationship between the human brain and the invisible forces that surround our world. Some of these ideas are well supported by evidence. Others remain uncertain. And a few exist on the very edge of scientific speculation. But together they tell a fascinating story about the deep connection between the planet beneath your feet and the mind inside your skull. So take a slow breath. Allow your body to relax. Let your thoughts begin to slow. And imagine the Earth as it truly is. A giant sphere of rock and metal spinning silently through space. Deep beneath the surface, nearly 3,000 kilometers below your feet, lies the Earth's outer core. It is not solid rock. It is a vast ocean of molten iron and nickel, swirling slowly around a solid inner core. As this molten metal moves, it generates powerful electrical currents. And those electrical currents create something remarkable. A magnetic field that extends far beyond the surface of the planet. This field is not perfectly stable. It moves and fluctuates. It stretches and bends under the influence of solar winds. But it remains strong enough to protect the Earth from enormous streams of charged particles flowing outward from the sun. Without this magnetic shield, the solar wind would slowly strip away our atmosphere. Scientists believe this may have happened on Mars. Mars once had a magnetic field similar to Earth's. But billions of years ago, its core cooled and its magnetic dynamo weakened. As the field faded, the planet became exposed to intense solar radiation. Over time, much of its atmosphere was lost to space. Earth was spared that fate. Our magnetic field continues to deflect the solar wind, guiding charged particles toward the polar regions where they create the shimmering lights we call the aurora. But this magnetic field does more than protect the atmosphere. It fills the space around the planet with a complex web of invisible energy. And life on Earth evolved within that environment. For billions of years, every organism on this planet developed under the influence of Earth's magnetic field. Plants, animals, microbes, and eventually human beings. Now here is something extraordinary. Many animals can sense this field. Birds migrating across continents use it to navigate thousands of miles. Sea turtles travel across entire oceans using magnetic cues embedded in their nervous systems. Even certain bacteria contain tiny crystals of magnetic material that allow them to orient themselves along magnetic field lines. This ability is known as magnetoreception. For a long time, scientists believed humans did not possess this ability. But over the past decade, new experiments have raised interesting questions. In one series of laboratory studies, researchers placed volunteers inside specially designed rooms that could control the magnetic field surrounding them. The field could be rotated slowly, mimicking the natural changes that occur as the Earth turns. The participants sat quietly with their eyes closed while researchers recorded their brain activity using electroencephalography. The volunteers reported feeling nothing unusual, but the brain recordings revealed something surprising. In some individuals, certain brainwave patterns shifted when the magnetic field changed direction. Specifically, there were small changes in alpha waves, the electrical rhythms associated with relaxed wakefulness. The participants were not consciously aware of the magnetic change, yet their brains appeared to respond. The effect was subtle, not dramatic, but measurable. This discovery raised an intriguing possibility. The human brain may retain a faint sensitivity to Earth's magnetic field, not strong enough to guide navigation the way birds or turtles use magnetism, but perhaps strong enough to interact with neural activity in small ways. To understand how this could happen, we need to remember something important about the brain. The brain is an electrical organ. Every thought you have is produced by electrical signals traveling through networks of neurons. Each neuron communicates with others by sending tiny voltage pulses across specialized connections called synapses. When billions of these neurons fire together, they produce patterns of electrical activity that scientists measure as brainwaves. Where there is electricity, there is also magnetism. The two are inseparable aspects of the same physical phenomenon. Whenever electrical currents flow, magnetic fields appear around them. And magnetic fields can influence electrical systems. In fact, this principle is used in modern medicine. Doctors sometimes treat severe depression using a technique called transcranial magnetic stimulation. During this therapy, a magnetic coil placed near the head generates brief magnetic pulses. These pulses induce small electrical currents inside the brain, altering neural activity in targeted regions. For some patients, this treatment can relieve symptoms of depression when other therapies fail. But the magnetic fields used in this medical treatment are extremely strong, thousands of times stronger than Earth's natural magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field at the surface of the planet is roughly 50 microteslas. By comparison, the pulses used in transcranial magnetic stimulation can exceed 1 Tesla. That difference is enormous, which suggests something important. The magnetic field of the Earth is probably too weak to directly control brain activity. But biology sometimes responds to extremely subtle influences. And there is another mechanism scientists are studying that may provide a clue. Inside the cells of many organisms, there are proteins called cryptochromes. These proteins help regulate circadian rhythms, the internal biological clock that tells your body when to feel awake and when to feel sleepy. Cryptochromes are sensitive to light, but they may also interact with magnetic fields through a quantum process known as the radical pair mechanism. In certain animals, this mechanism appears to help detect the direction of Earth's magnetic field. Birds, for example, possess specialized cryptochrome molecules in their eyes that may allow them to perceive magnetic information visually. When magnetic fields alter the behavior of electrons inside these molecules, chemical reactions shift slightly. Those shifts may create signals that the brain interprets as directional information. Humans also possess cryptochrome proteins. They exist inside cells throughout the body, including in parts of the brain involved in regulating sleep cycles. Scientists are still investigating whether these molecules respond to magnetic fields in humans the same way they do in animals. The evidence so far is inconclusive, but the possibility is fascinating. Because circadian rhythms are deeply connected to memory and emotion. Your brain organizes memories during sleep. It strengthens certain neural connections while weakening others. Emotional experiences are processed and integrated into long-term memory. This process depends heavily on the timing of brain activity. Circadian rhythms guide the release of hormones. They influence neurotransmitter levels. They regulate when your brain enters deep sleep and when dreaming occurs. If magnetic fields can influence the molecules involved in circadian rhythms, even slightly, they might indirectly affect how the brain processes emotional memories during sleep. But this idea remains a hypothesis, a possibility that researchers are still testing. So the question remains open. Does Earth's magnetic field subtly interact with the brain's electrical activity? Could geomagnetic fluctuations influence mood or memory? Or are these effects too small to matter? To explore those questions, scientists are studying something called geomagnetic storms. When powerful eruptions occur on the surface of the sun, massive bursts of charged particles travel toward Earth. When these particles collide with our magnetosphere, the magnetic field temporarily shifts and vibrates. During these events, instruments around the world record measurable changes in geomagnetic activity. Some researchers have looked for correlations between these geomagnetic storms and changes in human behavior. A few studies suggest that hospital admissions for mood disorders may increase slightly during periods of intense geomagnetic activity. Other studies have found weak correlations between geomagnetic fluctuations and variations in heart rate or sleep patterns. But the evidence is mixed. Many scientists believe these correlations may simply be coincidence. Human behavior is influenced by countless variables: stress, weather, social conditions, biology, and chance. Separating genuine magnetic effects from background noise is extremely difficult. Still, the research continues, because the brain is an incredibly sensitive system. Small influences sometimes produce meaningful outcomes, and the environment around us is filled with subtle forces we rarely notice. As you listen to this tonight, your brain is quietly generating electrical rhythms. Neurons are firing in coordinated patterns. Memories from your day are being organized and stored. Emotions are being processed. Soon as you fall asleep, your brain will enter deeper cycles of activity. Slow waves will ripple through neural networks. Dreams will emerge from fragments of memory and imagination. And throughout this process, the Earth will continue spinning beneath you, its magnetic field flowing silently around the planet. Invisible, ancient, constant. A reminder that your mind exists within a much larger system. A living planet moving through space. A planet whose invisible forces have shaped life for billions of years. And perhaps, in ways we are only beginning to understand, still whisper to the electrical rhythms of the human brain. So as you relax tonight, allow that thought to settle gently in your mind. The Earth beneath you is not silent. It is alive with energy. Magnetic currents flowing through molten iron. Invisible fields stretching far into space. And somewhere inside that quiet field, your thoughts continue to drift towards sleep. If you are still listening, allow your breathing to become slow and steady. Let the muscles in your face soften. Let your shoulders sink slightly deeper wherever you are resting. Because now we are going to move deeper into the science of how memories and emotions form inside the brain. To understand whether Earth's magnetic field could ever influence your memories, we first need to understand what a memory actually is. A memory is not stored in a single place. There is no tiny compartment inside your brain where experiences are placed like objects on a shelf. Instead, memories exist as patterns of connections between neurons. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. Each neuron forms thousands of connections with other neurons through structures called synapses. When you experience something meaningful, certain groups of neurons activate together. Electrical signals travel through networks. Chemical messengers called neurotransmitters are released. And over time, the connections between those neurons strengthen. This process is called synaptic plasticity. The more often certain neurons activate together, the stronger their connection becomes. In simple terms, neurons that fire together tend to wire together. This is how experiences become memories. But memory formation is not completed while you are awake. In fact, some of the most important memory processing occurs while you sleep. During sleep, the brain enters several different stages. In the earliest stage, brain activity begins to slow. Your thoughts become less focused. Your awareness of the outside world fades. Then deeper sleep begins. During deep sleep, the brain produces slow rhythmic waves known as delta waves. These waves move through large regions of the brain like slow tides rolling across an ocean. While this is happening, something extraordinary occurs inside your neural networks. The brain begins replaying experiences from the day. Scientists have observed this process in both animals and humans. Neural activity patterns that occurred during waking experiences are repeated again during sleep. The hippocampus, a small structure deep within the brain that plays a key role in memory formation, sends signals to the cortex. Those signals help transfer short-term memories into long-term storage. Memories are reorganized. Unimportant details are removed. Important connections are strengthened. Emotionally significant experiences receive special attention. The brain evaluates them carefully. During dreaming sleep, which scientists call REM sleep, emotional centers of the brain become especially active. The amygdala, which processes emotional reactions, lights up with activity. Meanwhile, parts of the brain responsible for logical control become quieter. This allows the brain to explore emotional memories in a more flexible way. Dreams can combine memories, feelings, and imagination. They allow the brain to experiment with emotional responses, to reprocess experiences, to integrate lessons learned during the day. This is why sleep is so important for emotional health. When people are deprived of sleep, emotional regulation becomes more difficult. Small problems feel overwhelming. Memories become disorganized. Mood swings increase. But when sleep is healthy and consistent, the brain processes emotional information more effectively. Memories become stable. Emotional reactions become balanced. Now imagine this delicate system of electrical signals and chemical processes inside your brain. Billions of neurons firing. Tiny voltage changes moving across synapses. Magnetic fields generated by those electrical currents. Because wherever electricity flows, magnetism appears. Your brain actually produces its own magnetic field. It is extremely small, but it exists. Scientists can detect these fields using instruments called magnetoencephalography scanners. These devices measure the magnetic signals produced by neural activity. When neurons fire, they create tiny magnetic fluctuations outside the skull. These signals reveal patterns of brain activity without directly touching the brain. So the brain itself is both electrical and magnetic. It generates tiny electromagnetic patterns as it processes thoughts, emotions, and memories. Now consider the environment around you. Earth's magnetic field is constantly present. It fluctuates slightly as the planet rotates. Solar activity causes temporary disturbances. Electrical currents flow through the ionosphere high above the atmosphere. Together, these create a complex electromagnetic environment. Most of the time, the influence of these external fields on the brain is extremely small. Much smaller than the magnetic fields produced by your own neural activity. But scientists remain curious. Because biological systems sometimes respond to very subtle environmental cues. For example, circadian rhythms are strongly influenced by light. Even tiny changes in light intensity can shift sleep patterns. Seasonal animals respond to subtle changes in daylight length. Plants respond to faint environmental signals. So researchers have asked whether the brain might also respond to magnetic variations in ways we do not yet fully understand. Some experiments have explored whether geomagnetic storms affect human physiology. When the sun releases powerful bursts of energy, charged particles travel toward Earth. When they collide with the magnetosphere, the magnetic field vibrates and fluctuates temporarily. These disturbances can be measured around the world. Some studies have compared these events with patterns in human behavior. A few researchers have reported weak correlations between geomagnetic disturbances and changes in mood or sleep quality. But these findings remain controversial. The effects, if they exist at all, are very small. And human behavior is influenced by many variables at once. Still, the idea remains intriguing. Because the brain is sensitive to rhythms. Brainwaves themselves are rhythmic electrical patterns. Circadian cycles follow daily rhythms. Hormones rise and fall in cycles. Your heart beats rhythmically. Your breathing moves in slow patterns. Life is full of rhythms. And the Earth itself produces rhythms. The rotation of the planet creates day and night cycles. Ocean tides move with the rhythm of the moon. Even Earth's magnetic environment contains subtle oscillations. Some scientists have suggested that biological systems may occasionally synchronize with environmental rhythms. Not in dramatic ways, but in gentle, almost imperceptible ways. This concept is sometimes called environmental entrainment, the idea that living systems adjust themselves to repeating patterns in the environment. Light is the most powerful example of this. But magnetism has also been proposed as a potential secondary signal. Again, the evidence remains uncertain, but researchers continue exploring these questions, because the relationship between the brain and the environment is more complex than we once believed. Your mind does not exist in isolation. It is constantly interacting with the world around you. Light enters your eyes. Sound waves reach your ears. Temperature affects your body. And electrical systems within your brain respond to these signals. Yet despite all these interactions, the human brain remains remarkably stable. Your memories are not easily rewritten by external magnetic fields. Your emotions are shaped primarily by experiences, relationships, and internal biology. The magnetic field of the Earth is unlikely to control your thoughts, but it remains part of the invisible environment in which your brain evolved. A quiet background force, a silent companion to life on this planet. And as you continue to relax tonight, your brain will gradually slow its rhythms. Thoughts will drift further apart. Neural activity will shift toward the slower waves of sleep. The hippocampus will begin its quiet work of replaying the day. Memories will be organized. Emotions will settle. Connections between neurons will strengthen or weaken. All of this happening silently inside your mind. While outside, the Earth continues turning beneath the stars, its molten core slowly swirling, its magnetic field stretching outward into space, invisible, ancient, and constant. A quiet reminder that your mind, your memories, and your emotions exist within a much larger system. A living planet moving through the universe. And now, as your thoughts begin to fade into the quiet rhythms of sleep, you can simply rest, knowing that your brain will continue its gentle work through the night.